Hi students, today we will be looking at how to make strategic innovation decisions. Imagine that you have $10 million. You have 5 brilliant ideas, but you can only choose one. How do you decide? Many startups collapse, not because they ran out of ideas, but because they picked the wrong idea. Strategic innovation is 90% selection and 10% creation. This means that sometimes choosing the right decision for the business may affect the business much more in the long term in terms of sustainability compared to the innovation itself. How do we choose the right idea? Innovation is a resource allocation problem. Every dollar spent on a bad idea takes away from a successful one. Strategy over novelty. Does this idea help to reach long-term business goals? Discipline. Does the business have the courage to reject exciting but distracting projects? Now let's have a look at why innovation fails. Firstly, there is a financial burden. There is a high cost, especially on startups, where research and development and marketing costs exceed the first initial profit that a business might have. There is also a high risk that comes together with startups, where technology is unproven or businesses are trying to branch out to markets that do not exist. Thirdly, there is a strategic mismatch where the idea lacks brand fit or the company capability. Last but not least, there is no competitive advantage. The idea or the business innovation fails to outperform any existing solutions. Therefore, there's no customer needs that it is solving. Let's have a look at Google Glass. Google launched Glass in 2013. It was a brilliant idea, but it failed strategically. The reason is that it is high cost, where it cost about $1,500 in order to create it, and it had an unclear demand. Next is social barrier. People felt uncomfortable about being recorded. Therefore, it was pulled and the idea was scrapped in 2015. Now let's have a look at Meta and the Metaverse. This was a multi-billion-dollar gamble where Mark Zuckerberg rebranded Facebook to Meta, which changed and showed a shift towards virtual reality. There was high risk where there was incredible infrastructure costs. That's the cost of the cloud and hosting the new platform, as well as the virtual reality. There is also uncertainty. Would users actually want to live in a digital world and use virtual reality? Is there a demand? There is also the strategy. Is it a visionary move or is it just another add to the costs from the main core business of Meta? There is a success story of Spotify where Spotify came up with Discover Weekly, which was a big success. Instead of just hosting and playing music, Spotify used AI and data to innovate the experience. So Discover Weekly is where Spotify combines music that and of similar genre or music from your playlist in order to cater to each individual taste. This helped to increase customer engagement and retention, therefore succeeding. Because this is the reason for its success is that users felt the platform knew them, and this gave the business of Spotify the unique value proposition. The best innovation decisions happen when three factors overlap. First is feasibility. Can the product or service or the idea be built? And does the business or the current market have the skills to build it? Next, does it align? Does the idea or innovation align with who the business is as a company? And will the customer pay for it? Does it solve an actual customer problem? Now, what's the difference between feasibility and viability? Feasibility talks about if it can be done. Viability talks about should the business be doing it. Feasibility is the technical stuff which looks at equipment, materials, and expertise, which is the resources needed to create the product or the service. Viability is the financial aspect which looks at profit, market share, and business sustainability. Is it viable in the long run? Can the business keep running in the long term? Remember, a cool product that loses money on every sale is a strategic failure. What is a strategic fit? A strategic fit means an innovation leverage. Leverage is what the company is really good at. For example, if Apple decided to innovate a new type of breakfast cereal tomorrow, it would likely fail because they lack the distribution, brand trust, and expertise in food. Now, for every decision, you always have to create a risk analysis. You have to look at the risk for each decision. Now, if Sonic, a food company, was to launch a new $1.99 menu, what would be the risk for this? Now, this is considered a low risk because it makes incremental changes. Incremental meaning small little changes. Therefore, it is low risk and there is a lower cost as well. So there's only certain outcomes. Now, however, if we were to look at a high risk profile such as SpaceX launching a rocket into space, it is a high risk because it is a very disruptive change. It needs a massive investment and the future is unclear. We are unsure of the demand for the future. This is where you have to keep in mind the role of opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the cost that happens when you choose a choice. So for example, if you have a choice between path A and path B, if you choose to invest in innovation A, you lose the chance to invest in innovation B. So innovation B is the opportunity cost. Whenever you're making a decision, you need to compare the expected return of every possible decision. This is where the decision-making matrix is important because it shows you can use it to figure out the score for strategy, feasibility, as well as viability. Sometimes businesses innovate products because they can, not because there's a need. This is called a technology push, where the alternative is a market pull, where companies innovate to solve a problem that customers are experiencing or facing. Now, there is also the cost of indecision. What is indecision? Indecision refers to the act of doing nothing. An example would be companies like Kodak or Blockbuster, which fails because they were too afraid to take the risk of innovating their existing business model. Let's have a look at the innovation pipeline. First, healthy companies. They start by generating lots of ideas and screening those ideas for feasibility. From there, they test the idea on how well it fits the market, and then before they launch a full-scale commercial version of the product or innovation. What's the difference between innovation versus inventive? An invention is a new creation. However, an innovation is an invention that is successfully commercialized to create value.